Dallas Cowboys star running back Ezekiel Elliott has tested positive for COVID-19. His agent confirmed it to NFL Network and said Elliott is feeling fine. Several other Cowboys reportedly tested positive as well. Dak Prescott is not one of them. No comment from the Cowboys, and Elliott raised concern on Twitter about who's leaking his medical information. All of this raising questions about whether and how the NFL can move forward with training camps next month. Fox 4's Natalie Solis joining us live with more. Natalie.
Well, Steve, an NFL Network reporter did break this story this morning, and it is stirring up a lot more questions for a league trying to balance play and exposure.
I want my guy to return, but I don't want to expose him.
NFL agent and attorney Walter Musgrove, all too familiar with the risk-reward tightrope of getting professional athletes back on the field. Even though he does not represent Ezekiel Elliott, he is closely watching what happens with the Cowboys running back who tested positive for COVID-19. After the story broke this morning, Elliott tweeted HIPAA ? A reference to medical privacy, apparently not happy with reporters who approached his agent.
Although the NFL has put out their protocols, the NFLPA hasn't necessarily approved those protocols. So we're still trying to determine when and how the players will return.
Musgrove says it will be interesting to watch, especially now how things continue to play out between the league and players' union.
Once they do return, they start testing the players. I think at that point, if enough players test positive, then they definitely will have to look at how they're going to change or if they're going to start the season on time.
The NFL Players Association already sounding the alarm, pointing to the disproportionate number of COVID complications among African Americans and people with a body mass index over 30, which would include most linemen. In early April, Elliott and Dak Prescott faced criticism for a Des Bryant tweet showing them in a group of players who worked out together. Prescott and Elliott appeared together the following weekend at what Prescott described as a small house party. Musgrove cautions about drawing conclusions about Elliott's previous behavior.
People naturally will say, well, that's the result of that, which doesn't necessarily mean that he now has COVID because of that.
And if there's any silver lining, he says, it might be the impact on the broader community.
The fact that Ezekiel Elliott contracted the virus, they'll think twice about how they interact.
And Musgrove says it doesn't appear that there is any sort of timeline for the Players Association to approve the NFL protocols. And he says this sport inherently contradicts everything about social distancing, from contact on the field to close quarters in the locker room. So this is a tough one. Back to you.
Yes, Natalie, and I have a very tough question. I really don't expect you to know. I don't even know if Ducey would ask this, but this HIPAA question. The Cowboys all the time report if Ezekiel Elliott has a sore hamstring and will be limited in practice, and that's medical information. But is that type of reporting different from this, and are there different contractual obligations? Do we know that?
From what I've read, it sounds like HIPAA applies to medical personnel, insurance companies. I don't think it would apply in this particular case, but again, I think that is a question that still needs to be answered.
Okay, Natalie.